of councillors and staff, and welcome. Welcome to our Teams meeting. I do hope tonight that we can get through our business in an efficient way. I'd like to think that everyone will be comfortable and be given an opportunity to speak and to have to voice their views in a respectful way. I think it's all a little bit new to us all, but I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. And if you are at any stage having any issue, please put your hand up and let's know. The bottom of your toolbar, you'll find that there's a little hand down there. When you want to speak or when we vote, I would ask that you use that little hand, and that will pop up on your screen, on your picture. And when you want to remove that, you press that same little icon again. So that's basically the rule around, I guess, making a comment tonight or wanting to make a comment so that you can attract some attention, and for the voting. Are we comfortable with that? Thanks, councillors. Before we go any further, I will open the meeting with our acknowledgement to country. We would like to acknowledge the Ngadjuri people, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Our next matter is the apologies or leave of absence. At this stage, I have apology from Councillor Sam Mitchell and an apology from Councillor Mark Frankham. Are there any further apologies? If not, we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of Council held the 22nd of June 2021 and the confidential minutes of the meeting of Council held Tuesday the 22nd of June 2021, where there is a minor amendment to be approved by the Council. And I'll read that amendment out. The amendment should suggest on item, where are we? Kyron, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, Mayor Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Would you like to just explain that that matter in the confidential minute, that the word that needs to be changed?
Yeah, certainly can.
Those minutes?
Yeah, and I'll just share my screen as to the I guess the change to the recommendation. So just bear with me.
Councillors may be aware we were notified of this via email, but Kyron will just reinforce what's been said.
So, Mayor Bill, are you seeing the modified recommendation up on the screen?
No. Yes, on the big screen we are, yes.
Yep. So essentially, it was previously just a single point recommendation that both the minutes of the ordinary meeting and the confidential meeting of 22nd of June be confirmed as true and correct record of that meeting. However, when we looked at the third point of Council's resolution dealing with confidential item 15.4, land activation Oldham Street, Kapunda, community use of existing buildings, it appeared to me as though there was some words missing, and the words missing were of demolishing between the words not and the from the third point. So that's really articulated in that second point of the recommendation that you see up on the screen there. So the impact of moving in accordance with that, the recommendation shown is that the third point of the resolution from the last council meeting will then read, point 3, report back to council stating as to the benefit or not of demolishing the clubhouse and selling 2 blocks to 1 block with the clubhouse on. So I hope that makes sense. I'm happy to take any questions on that, but it was really just a matter of a couple of missing words there that didn't quite make sense without them.
Thanks very much, Kyron, and thanks so much too for having the eye for detail to pick that up, because I think it might have escaped many of us. Councillor, is there any questions in relation to that? It's pretty straightforward, I would think, but I'll take any questions. If not, could I have someone move that we accept the recommendations of the minutes of those two meetings?
I'll move that, Councillor Dean.
Councillor Dean, if you'd like to use your little hand signal. Would someone like to second that motion?
I'm happy to second.
Thanks, Councillor Simon. Would you like to use that little hand?
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
Terrific. All those in favour? Those against? If you just put your hand up, perhaps your physical hand if you're against it.
Oh, no.
That might be easier for us, I think, in some of these matters. Okay, thanks, councillors. That motion is carried. We move on now to the Mayor's communications, and I'll keep this very brief. Once again, I have to thank Stacey Dixon. We had a citizenship ceremony again this month, and it's delightful. It really is. It's my favourite job, and it's a lovely family from Hewitt, and Stacey did such a terrific job in organising that and making sure that everything's in its place. And they really enjoyed their time in our council chamber. The other matter was the opening of the Kingsford Barossa. What a wonderful asset to our region. Stefan Arns and his wife Leanne, great credit to them. In 1 year, they constructed and designed and constructed the Barossa, Kingsford Barossa, which now attaches to the old Kingsford homestead on the property that was used for the McLeod's daughters. The project cost them over $10 million. Most of the equipment, most of the infrastructure was built by Arns and designed by Arns. So it's a great credit to the Arns family, and certainly to Stefan and Leanne, and of course all the employees at Arns, which are a very important part of our region. But a great credit, and it's a wonderful place, and it's a jewel in the crown of any accommodation in the whole of the Barossa region. Probably by far and away the best. Absolutely superb. They've even got a traditional Kegel alley downstairs where you can play that traditional bowling, the 10-pin bowling like they do in Tanunda. They've kept the original style of the region there, of the area, and everything about that is a support of the brand Barossa, the international brand. Just our good luck, of course, it's in our council region, so we will benefit greatly from that. And it was an absolute pleasure to be invited. But that was certainly my highlight for the month. Any other council members would like to report on anything that are involved with in the month? If not, we'll move on to petitions. We have nil. Deputations and presentations, we have nil, first time for a long time. We have no adjourned business, and we have very little business arising. I might just ask business arising by page, because there's very little matters to be raised for questioning. Any matters on the first page, councillors? On page, someone mentioned Councillor Simon?
If I can have a question. It just, I think it appears 3 times, but it's the live streaming of council meetings, and all the items seem to be completed. I just wondered, it seems that we have a test going and all that, which is great. Yes. But I just wondered, we still haven't adjusted the code of practice for the meeting procedures to allow for recording, and I just wondered if this is all completed. It seems like we've done, and I still think there's another step, a few more steps probably that needs to be done. So I'm just a bit worried that it looks like it's all finished, where in my mind it hasn't just yet.
I think the only one that's completed there, Councillor Simon, is the trial period is occurring. That's what's happening now. the trial period for live streaming of council meetings occurring. That's why that's got completed. Where's the other one?
So it comes further down. It comes again upon the office council chamber upgrade live meeting streaming. And then it appears a third time upon the office council chamber upgrade live meeting streaming, adjustment to code of practice for meeting procedure. It's all completed, but I'm not really aware of that we have adjusted the code of practice just yet.
Okay. Any comment, Richard?
Thank you, Mayor Bill. The council, the remark is completed following the resolution of the last council meeting to live streaming and record the trial. So once that trial is completed, we'll come back to council with an update report at which a further decision-making process will be undertaken. So in terms of picking up your comment about the council's meeting code of practice, if we need to adjust the code of practice at that time, we'll do it as part of that future report to the council. You've all read that.
Happy with that, Councillor Simon? It's certainly not being buried at all. It's just it's a staged process, that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand. Just since it says completed on that one item where it does mention that code of practice adjustment, and we haven't done that, I was just wanted to make sure that we haven't forgotten about it. That's all.
No, thanks for raising it. That's a good point. We move on. Anything further, councillors? Okay, we can move on now to 11.1, which is the financial report. Are there any questions in relation to the financial report for that period? If not, I have a recommendation halfway down the page that the reports for information be received and the contents herein noted by council. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Annette and Councillor Dean. All those in favour? You can just tick your little hands. I'm not seeing all my council members on here as clear as I should. And those against, the motion is carried. I don't know why I'm not seeing everybody. We'll work it out. We'll move to the item 12, the consensus reports for decision. The first recommendation is that the agenda reports presented under item 12, consensus reports for decision of this ordinary meeting of the Light Regional Council, held Tuesday the 27th of July, be received. Would someone like to move that way? They be received. Councillor Jason, would someone like to second that? Councillor Simon. All those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. The recommendation 2, or pardon me, are there any matters you would like to have withdrawn from the 3 that are in the table? All pretty straightforward. Recommendation 2, that the reports of the meeting of the Light Regional Council held Tuesday the 27th of July 2021 and the associated recommendations as set out below under item 12, consensus report decision, be adopted. Now, would someone like to move that way? Councillor Annette.
Happy to second.
And Councillor Simon. All those in favour? Those against? I haven't got everybody for some reason. Has everyone voted?
Mayor Bill, you should have across the bottom of your screen other
Mm.
people other than those in the big one, and the hand comes up on their icons as well. On my iPad, I don't know whether it does on yours.
Well, I'm not seeing the hands coming up. That's my issue. I'll put those against. Could those against put their hand up, please? I'm not seeing any hands up. So I suggest that the motion's carried. There's nothing there. Thank you, Pepper. So the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. I'm sorry for my dithering. It's all a little bit new. We move on now to I think 13.4 might be next. It's not that one. 13.1, councillors, on page 19 of your agenda. Legatus Group Deputy Chair nomination. I was an enemy of the Legatus Group years ago, as you might recall, but I think sometimes you do you get a lot more out of these organisations by being in the tent than being outside. And I've been the deputy chair for quite some time now, and I've enjoyed the role to some degree, and learned a lot from what Legatus is capable of. And I'm sure we're doing a lot more now than we were originally for all of the councils involved, which there are 15. So I'm prepared to put my hand up again if the council believes that I should. The Legatus, of course, comprises of 15 mayors and CEOs in our region. Would someone like to move that motion or discuss that motion, talk against it? Councillor Dean moved and Councillor Bill seconded. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. I'm operating mine from the main screen. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with seeing the hands on my iPad. My apologies. Page 13.2, loan borrowings as at the 30th of June 21. Are there any questions, councillors? If not, it's a recommendation 2/3 of the way down page 20. The council notes the report provided in regard to loan borrowings as the 30th of June 2021. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Dean, would someone like to second that motion? Councillor Sharon. All those in favour? Those against? So,
Councillor Lynette and Councillor Bill, are you voting against or have you just left your hands up?
How do we take our hands down?
I think the same way you try to put it up.
Hit the icon again. That's right. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried. Now we move to item 13.3, and I must commend Craig on this absolutely extraordinary report. One of Craig's very best, I'm sure. Absolutely brilliant, and it answers all the questions certainly anyone could have. But if anyone would like to raise any matters that are contained in the report or do have any further questions, I'll open it for discussion. Are there any comments, councillors? Councillor Dean.
I just wondered, Mayor Bill, whether Craig wants to highlight anything particularly from that report, seeing he was the author of it.
Thanks, Councillor Dean. Craig, would you like the opportunity to talk to this report?
Thank you, Mayor Bill, and thank you, Councillor Rawlack. The report's fairly comprehensive, Mayor Bill, and thank you for commenting positively on that. I did that really because it was a bit of an opportunity to provide a bit of a detailed report for us to refer to in the future, and I've borrowed heavily from the source documents, as you will have seen, in terms of the tables and whatnot. But I think it paints, when viewed in a combined way, a pretty comprehensive picture of how things are shaping up into the future and where our place as a council fits within that. But I'm more than happy to take any questions if there are any.
Councillors, inviting questions. Are there any questions in relation to this report?
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Simon.
First, I want to say it's an excellent report, and it really sort of clarified a lot of questions I had to begin with. The one thing that I just wondered is that regional indenture, that regional subsidiary that we are going, or it looks like we are going to form. It seemed, or it was put as the main issue to be able to resolve anomalies and to change things around, or to amend things so that they don't impede development. And I was just wondering, reading this report, it seems like there is mechanisms in place to do that, and it looks like they're already sort of been addressed to a certain degree. So I just wondered if, where that fits in with the existing structure of these areas and our the idea of having to form this regional subsidiary to change things. How do these two fit together?
Thanks, Councillor Simon. Craig, you able to handle that one?
Thanks, Mayor Bill, and thanks, Councillor Zeller, for the question. And I might turn perhaps to, Brian and Kyron might also have content to add here. Look, for context, the EFPA, the land supply question, really sits around, I guess, residential and employment land supply. The regional subsidiary, though, is also looking at, I guess, other aspects of development that feed into management of key opportunities with things like water resources and those types of things, which will support ongoing agricultural activities, as one example, and perhaps other growth and commercial opportunities, which sit separately from this. It really is focused on the residential land supply in terms of the EFPA in one respect, and the employment land paints a picture across metropolitan Adelaide of where there is supply available, but also the context and the nature of that supply. So whether it's greenfields or reclaiming brownfield sites, as they call them, where there's been past industrial or commercial activity. But I think the other key point it makes for all areas going forward is that we're looking away from calling things industrial land as we did in the past, and it's now characterised as employment land to pick up on a wider range of opportunities. So that's just a bit more of a footnote, but something to be mindful of. So there is a place, I guess I'm saying, in relation to having a regional subsidiary. It's a more targeted and focused element, though, if I could characterise it that way.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah.
Brian,
Mr. Mayor,
like
if I could just also echo those comments from Craig. The regional subsidiary will look at project-based items such as the regional water strategy, tourism projects. For instance, there's the Barossa Golf Course project where it's inhibited to its fullest extent because of the legislation that's in place. And so this report talks about land supply, and it covers the environment and food production areas, and it does make mention of the character preservation area. But you'll notice when you look at a map of Light Regional Council, apart from the townships, the entire Light Regional Council area is controlled by two pieces of legislation, state legislation. And it begs the question, is that a little bit over the top, and can some of this legislation become a little bit more flexible so that economic projects can in fact be entertained without them contravening these two pieces of legislation? So that's the charter of the regional subsidiary, to have a look at that. And if there needs to be legislative change on both of these pieces of legislation, it will require, and Craig will correct me if I'm wrong, but it will require both houses of parliament to actually endorse a change to this legislation.
Thank you, Brian. You satisfied, Councillor Simon? Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, very much. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. It was a good one. Any further questions,
Bill,
Councillor?
I've just got a comment, if I may.
Certainly.
Yeah, just to throw from me, Bill, just to comment to say, I was pleased to see Buckfelder listed there, because it's becoming a bit of a backwater there. It's sort of, yeah.
We lost you there for a second, Councillor Bill.
I'm just saying, Buckfelder continued to be mentioned in the possible changes. Bill, I think it's important that it's kept in the forefront of thoughts. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for the contribution. Craig, you can take that one on with Buckfelder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bill. It's mentioned for inclusion as another potential matter in the future.
Excellent. Any further questions, councillors? I think you deserve the Brownlow Medal for this report, Craig. It's something that we can keep in our archives as well for something that we can refer to for, I'm sure, many moons to come. So thank you for that. We move on now to 13.4. Oh, pardon me. A recommendation. Councillors, the recommendations are on the top of page 27. Would someone like to move that way? I need a move, and I need someone to second those recommendations. I move Councillor Bill. Second, Councillor Dean. All those in favour? Put your little hands up, councillors. Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on to 13.4 on page 45 of your council agenda. The Kapunda Historic Mine Site in situ recovery test proposal. Just an extension, I understand, to the proposal that's already been approved. Would someone like to move that way, or any further comment or questions? There's a recommendation halfway down the page. If someone would like to move that way, if there are no questions or any further comment. Councillor Dean and Councillor Jason, all those in favour? Has everyone voted? The motion's carried. I'm not sure if everyone's voted.
Yes, everyone voted.
Right, thank you. Thanks, councillors. Well, 13.5, Land Management Agreement, Lot 437 Sturt Highway, Nuriupta. Now, I think this matter has come before council before, and I'm sure I'm correct in saying that, but on the same token, it's in front of us now. Are there any questions or comments? If not, there are two recommendations at the bottom of page 49. Oh, Councillor Bill, have you a question or a comment? Your little hand is up. You're not out shearing sheep again, are you? Good. Hands down.
Just getting a brandy, Bill.
There's weather for it. There are a couple of recommendations at the bottom of the page, if someone would like to move that way. We have a mover, Councillor Lynn, and second, Councillor Jason. All those in favour? Little hands. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we move on now to our procedural matters in our ordinary meeting of council. The first one was a question on notice from Councillor Kennelly, Larky Ward, and the answer has been provided. There are no other questions on notice. Are there any questions without notice? There is no notice of motion, and there are no motions without notice. That brings us to the confidential section of our council meeting tonight, which I must say in my time in council, this is the most items that I can recall, but I think we'll all agree that they're all extremely important, and they are really a part of our future direction as a council, all these matters. So very important that we have these reports in front of us and can understand them as well and come to some conclusions. The first matter, 15.1, is the 5 Shilling Estate Activation Progress Report. Are there any questions, councillors?
Can we hear from Brian on this one, please, Bill?
I might introduce Brian. Would you like to just... Oh, pardon me. I need someone to move and second that we go into confidence to start with. Someone like to move that way? Councillor Jason, someone like to second that? Councillor Sharon. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. We're in confidential session now, councillors, so we all know the rules.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.